for a lot of people to truly let go.
It seemed too passive for you.
It seemed too passive for me. So I did put it in a drawer,
right.
but I also thought, God helps those who help themselves sometimes, so let me at least get myself an online profile. Let me at least kind of take some steps to let God know that I am willing to step out of the box and be seen here. I'm ready to make a step in the direction of my new relationship.
So you started to get responses.
I started to get responses, and oh my goodness. I mean, I don't know what's happening to us as a society thanks to the internet, but I got some very disturbing responses, and I got some very troubling responses across the board. But I also got a surprising number of white men who responded to my profile. And at first I thought, well, this is kind of weird. What are these guys, what do they want? What are they looking for? Is there something wrong with this picture?
You were suspicious.
I was a little bit suspicious. And then I kind of went back to that list, and I realized that I hadn't put any physical characteristics on it, and maybe I was saying no to my own good by immediately assuming that these men had a problem.
Right.
So I went out with a few guys, both white, black, Latin, Asian, people whose profiles seemed to suit me. And, there were not really connections there until one day I got an email from a guy that was just really funny and lighthearted, and I thought, oh, he's nice. I wrote him back, and he wrote me back, and we exchanged emails for weeks. And then finally he said, I really enjoy writing to you. Why don't we talk on the phone sometime? So he called me, and we had as good a time talking on the phone as we had exchanging emails. And for another few weeks, we just talked on the phone. He would call every day at 3 o'clock, and we would talk for about an hour and laugh, and it was really nice. And finally he said, I really enjoyed talking to you. I would really like to meet you. Can I take you somewhere? Can we get together? So I had seen his picture. I knew he was a white guy. His picture wasn't something that made me say, ooh, Brad Pitt, I want to go out with that guy. He's so handsome. He's so hot. I'll get over. He was okay.
Right. He was just average.
He was just average. But I was like, well, I don't have to marry him. Right. He's a nice person. Right. I enjoy talking to him. What's the big deal? It's just a date.
Right.
Okay, we've been married 7 years now. From that moment when we first went out on a date, there was just something about him that was comfortable.
Something resonated.
Absolutely. And I really remember, and I'll always get choked up when I talk about this, Audrey, because it's such a funny feeling to have. But when I opened the door that first day and I looked at him, and I had seen his picture, and I knew he was just average. But when I looked at him, he's very pale, white hair, he's 10 years older than I am, so he's in his 50s when we first met, pale blue eyes, and I thought,
This was not what you had planned.
I just don't know if I can do this.
Right.
I just don't know if I can do this. Well, if I had let that feeling dictate our relationship, if I had closed my heart and closed the door then, I would have missed out on the healthiest, the best, the most stable and loving relationship that I have ever had.
Wow.
And it was literally that all of these notions, I call them, these prejudices, these ideas that we carry with us without examining.
Carry and pass on.
And pass on, that's right. As though they're true, without taking a moment to say, now, wait a minute, why am I reacting to that?
Right. Well, you reacted because of a lot of reasons. One, your history. One, the messages that, now, we haven't talked about your parents, but your parents were not happy at all about this.
Well, I had grown up with the idea that, don't bring home a white boy. Yes.
That's where the title came
That's
from.
right. That's absolutely right.
Right. And then you also have friends. Here's a conversation from one of your friends. She said, personally, I would never date out. If you know anything about the history of black women in this country, about the way we've been treated by white men, it just seems wrong to even consider a white man as a possible partner. I'll feel like I was dishonoring all my ancestors who suffered rape and sexual abuse at their hands. For me, it comes down to this. My foremothers had no rights, no say over who used their bodies. They couldn't say, stop, white man. But I have the power now, and I can say, you won't get this body. You'll never get this. This is a conversation you said from a sister friend.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you had all that to contend with.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons, Professor Banks was talking about this market imbalance almost between the availability of black women and how there's so many more of us looking for marriage and commitment than there seems to be black men who are available to us. And to address that, we have to start reframing our history in a way that allows us to accept the pain of our foremothers and to always be at the ready to address injustice and racism, and yet realize that the men who are walking around now are not those men. They are not responsible necessarily for the sins of their forefathers, and some of them have nothing to do with it at all. My husband's family was from Ireland. They got here in the 40s. They are not a part of any of our American legacy in that sense. And even if they were, you don't blame necessarily children for the sins of the parents.
Right.
People are people. You have to accept them for the characteristics and for their actions in the present,
right,
not for a whole category and class of people's sins in the past.
Right.
My husband, I think, joins with me because he has children now who are part black,
right,
in wanting to see racism change. He is
right,
sensitive to that in a way that I think he wouldn't have been
right,
had he not fallen in love with me and we have a family together.
right,
So,
right,
we have to begin to see these issues differently.
So there's some other dynamics that can come out of. Well, we want to let people talk to you. So there are other questions, of course, that I want to ask you, but I do want to get you to the phone lines. Let people know that we are here at 202-432-9487 or 1-800-221-9487 if you want to get in on this conversation. We are trying to look at what are the options for a group of African American women who are the most unmarried group of people in America. What are their options? Can they date cross cultures? Can they consider African men, and can they consider West Indian men, and can they consider Arab and Latin and European men? Can they go across the board, or do they have to remain single, unmarried for the rest of their lives because there's a smaller pool of black men, and that pool of black men who are available are not marrying or interested in African American women. So what do they do? All right, so we're going to go to the phone lines and take the next caller. Welcome to the Audrey Chapman Show. You're on the air.
Yes, hi. I just want to say I'm listening to her, and this is my life. That's been my life. The only difference between her life and my life is that I'm married younger. I married a black American when I was 20. And we divorced for infidelity and different reasons. And ever since then, it's been hard to find a man, like she said, that has similar background or similar interests, or that we're even interested in marrying. So it took me a good, I would say about 6 years after that. And when I started dating, I started getting interest from other nationalities. And I've always been open to other cultures. I've never been afraid to step outside of the black man realm.
Okay. So I ask you how old you are.
Right now I'm 33.
Okay, so you're still in that age group that isn't as kind of resistant as like my generation would be. So that's fine. I think the age thing makes a difference because your age group and the sisters even younger than you are much more open than the older sisters are. So
exactly.
Okay.
And I have a friend who's in that in another. She's one generation up. She's 41.
Right.
And she can't find a man. And when she gets a man, she squeezes the life out of him.
Right.
And I'm like, you gotta relax a little bit.
Right.
But that's her thing. She's like, what? She said, you divorced and you remarried 5 years. I've been divorced, 11, 12 years. I can't find a man.
Right.
I'm like, well, maybe the pool you're looking at is pee then. I mean, I said, maybe you need to go to a different pool, and she did the same thing. She set up an online profile, And she found when she put all the qualities in, most of the men that responded were white.
Wow.
And I said, well, maybe that's something you need to consider. You need to, just open your heart a little bit and see what,
So Karen, this woman is exactly like you.
Except for I'm 15 years older than she is.
Right.
So, I mean, that's, and it's very generational, Audrey. You're absolutely right. I think the younger you are, the more fluid this is. The older you are, I was born in 1963. So, right then and there, I'm right at the cusp of the civil rights movement culmination.
That's right.
Black power comes in with full steam in the late 60s and the 70s, and there's a whole idea of we stick together, we're going to, and then as that fades and you get into the 80s and the 90s and you're coming up, you really do see more mixing. As our parents move into white neighborhoods and we go to schools with kids of other cultures, and it becomes less and less of an issue, I think, the younger and the more diverse your community is. Now, for your friend who's in her early 40s, she's right around my age, it's harder to separate some of those notions. So it's good that you're saying to her, look, you think about this, but she's got to kind of come to that on her own. She's going to have to, really do some of the things that I did, both in the process of writing the book and in the process of meeting my second husband, of just saying, why am I reacting like this? He seems like a nice guy. What is the big deal?
So she's going to have her own awakening is basically what Karen is saying. And I think that's true. She may have to go through a few more rounds where it doesn't work out or she gets frustrated. And she hears what you're saying and she'll tuck it away and she'll revisit it. And at some point you'll notice, and she may not even make an announcement, that she's shifted over. And it's okay. She's giving herself lots of power. We have to take a break, so now you can either hold until I come back if you want to say something else, or...
Okay.
All right, so just hold on. Karen, don't leave us.
I'm not going anywhere.
All right. Could you bring him home for dinner? This is a question. Guess who's coming to dinner? Well, could you bring someone who's a non-black male home for dinner? Give us a call. We're here at 202-432-9487 or 1-800-221-9487. This is the Audrey Chapman Show on 96.3 WHUR. I'll be right back.
She doesn't extinguish.
For card membership, visit open. We're talking about Shoppers Food, the free PetSmart in 8204.
Today about the plight of marriage in the black community, and what it looks like and what it doesn't look like, the decline and how that decline really does affect everybody. And my current guest decided to do something about it. Her name is Karen Longhorn Folin, and she wrote the book, Don't Bring Home a White Boy. And she got that title because her mother had always told her that was not an option for her. And she thought that just was fitting for this title for this book. We've been talking a lot about her journey from being married to an African-American man, going through divorce, being single for a while, trying to find someone that would take commitment serious, realizing that she needed to open up her options and did so, and not because she went searching, but ended up finding a life partner, and it turned out that he was Caucasian, and she decided that was an acceptable arrangement for her because he fit with the profile and the characteristics that she was looking for. We're here at 202-432-9487 or 1-800-221-9487. Now, we still have someone on the line who I think you had a few more comments you wanted to make, and then we're going to let you go.
Okay. No, I was just going to say, my fiance is African, and it's more of a cultural difference, but it was still hard for a lot of my friends to accept. But then they met him and like, wow, he's really, he's sweet, and we're good together. We make a good team because I I find that, I mean, from my own experience, I found out also that I had to be what I wanted in a man. I couldn't say all of these things that I wanted,
Right.
and I'm not working on myself, and I think that's part of it.
Right.
But also, I